Okay, it is now 1:50 p.m. on October the 29th. I have tried to record a video blog several times this week, and every time something happens. So I have my phone here, and if it rings, I'm just gonna stop recording and just publish because I'm so ridiculously fed up with trying. Like, I want to make better video blogs and so on, but after the past 3 weeks that I've had, I'm just really frustrated, and yeah. So earlier this week was my last day of working at my previous job. Actually that day, I was dreading going into work that day because the temperature suddenly dropped to freezing, which is 0 Celsius or below 0 Celsius, and in Fahrenheit it's 32. It was actually about 32 or 31, somewhere around there. So we had the first actual frost, and it was a thick frost, and it was on everything. So I was dreading going in. I was expecting it to be terrible, and the previous 2 weeks were like this flip-flop, up and down, good days, bad days, or you'd have like a half and half, and it would be like either an extremely good and then an extremely bad, or extremely bad and then very good. And it was like that throughout the day, or it was just completely like blah, like an extreme blahness, like nothing's happening, nobody's talking, just weird, up and down. And I'm talking like the people were just absolutely moody, like extremely happy, extremely unhappy. And I'm somewhere in the middle of it. And the theme for this week, especially this week and last week, is communication issues, people who just don't talk or communicate what they think, what they feel, who they actually are, what they really mean, and sexism. Yes, I know racism is like a thing that's happening a lot lately, but sexism, like, to the max. And I'm especially talking about male sexism, because they don't even think that they are sexist. And I'm not even just talking about like the thing that just went down on YouTube, which to me was like whatever. It's just some punk that said stupid like sexist comment to me or whatever. And also he doesn't think he's sexist, whatever. No, I'm talking about like interactions with people around me. And not only that, but I've also had these conversations with other women, and when you have the conversation with other women and men are around, they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But when there's no other women around and it's just men, they're like, I don't know what you're talking about, men are just men and men do that. And if you go through a lot of like movies, books, comic books, media material from the last century, you can see like a clear difference in the mindset of men between now and even like the way that so-called hero characters are, leadership characters, things like that. It's completely different than now. And right now it's like this whole like prevailing sexism with men. Men talk about things about women completely differently than they do to your face. So if you have a boyfriend or you're married and a guy acts a certain way and you think he's not sexist, if you actually knew what he was like with other men around, you would probably be surprised that this is me being like really conservative, that men probably are very sexist, at least 50% or more sexist than they actually think that they are. Now, if you actually could talk to them in a civil, neutral way, and to be like, why do you think this is not sexist? What is sexist? And then you get to the subtext of things. They can actually start to realize and think things through that, yeah, oh, I didn't realize I was being sexist, I'm sorry. Also to think from the other person's point of view, to put things in a broader perspective or in a more acute perspective. They are capable of doing that. But if somebody right from the door doesn't want to even bother, then there's a problem and they're in denial. Okay? And a lot of times, these same things, it's like a machoism. It's the excuse to not even bother thinking it through is, boys will be boys, the good old boys club, well, that's just what men do. I mean, see, what's true for me is what's true for you, or what's true for you is what's true for me. Because when it's in your own life, if somebody treated your wife, your girlfriend, your sister, or your mother, or your grandmother, or some female figure that you actually care about, usually it's mother or grandmother, and it's a sister or whatever. So when you say something like that, like for example, it's mother and they hate their mother, it's hard to make that example. Or if they're trying to just mess with you, like you're trying to be have the conversation, and then they go, oh well, I don't like my mother, or I don't like my sister, or I wouldn't care. Then that's right away admitting it, and then they'll be like, oh well, I'm just busting your chops. Do you not see that this is also part of the problem? This is the problem. This is a communication issue. So back to my last day of working, I'm so fed up with being blamed with shit when leadership doesn't do leadership stuff, when mentorship doesn't do mentorship. I mean, I can freaking lecture out on this at length, and I am qualified to do so because I am trained by the state of New Jersey since the 90s in the Clinton administration. Okay, so I am all for talking things out. I am all for resolution. I am all for being on the same page. I am all for all of that. But if everyone else isn't into that because they might actually have to take the time out and actually do something, be responsible, think things through, think from the other person's perspective, or actually communicate how they feel, which would actually mean admitting vulnerability, well, why would they want to do that? I mean, it's not like they actually want things to be fair. But if it's not fair for one person, it's not actually fair for you because it can be turned around. So, I swear, last week I wanted to just go back on somebody because somebody was copying an attitude with me. It was supposed to be like a mentor. There's a whole bunch of issues with that if you knew the actual background of this particular person. An actual mentor. Okay, and this person was copying an attitude with me. So I got fed up with it, and they always catch me when I'm off guard, when I'm in the middle of like 2 or 3 tasks and I wasn't expecting it. Okay, so I didn't have to work one of the days, and then I came back a day later, and I was just fuming and stewing about it, okay? And I was like, if this dude freaking cops an attitude with me, I am going to mop the floor with him. I went and I read through all the regulations, all of the laws, all of the policies, and I even had like all of the upper management, the helpline, everything. I had all that information with me because I wanted to go bust on this person, like verbally and metaphorically, okay? I was so fed up, right? But then I went in and the dude was like in this great mood, like a whole other person, and then didn't even talk to me. And it turned out that he was like flirting with this other guy, right? And then whenever one of them wasn't there, it turned out the other dude was like romancing him as well or whatever. And yeah, when you work and somebody is like, I don't know, flirting with each other, it gets annoying, whatever. So I'm just like, whatever, I'm just over here doing my thing, and you're not really being a team, except the one dude actually was. He was very professional. And look, there are so many things I haven't even mastered because the quality time, the actual mentorship, the actual leadership isn't happening. It's, oh, I don't have time for this, so I'll do this right now, which doesn't help me to learn anything at all. So nothing happened that day. Nothing at all. He did, like, towards the end of the day when I figured everything was done and I was like, it was just very anticlimactic and it was just very bland that day. He caught me off guard with some, like, little quip that he said, but I didn't say anything, and it was because of the head manager. So the head manager, like, the reason that this person is, like, the head manager is because he just never quit. The way that the system of the structure of the business is that they push you through, or I wouldn't say fast track, but they push you through, and after a certain amount of days you become this level and then this level, and or how many weeks or months or whatever, you become this da-da-da. So your title changes and then your pay changes or whatever. And as long as nothing too negative is on your actual report, you just keep going. So this dude who was the actual head person of that store, he's not a leader. He just doesn't. He'll be like, oh, go do something, and everybody just sits there and laughs at him, right? He doesn't do anything. He doesn't step up and do anything, and in the morning he's like a diva. He just won't talk for like half an hour, right? He'll be like, oh, like I need something. He'll be like, oh yeah, I'll go get that for you, and then disappear and not do anything. That is not what a responsible leader is supposed to do. So when you have this particular person who is supposed to be in charge, and then you have the other middle managers under that, and one of them just up and left, either he left or he got fired or whatever, and he was the only person who would voice his concerns with that other person, and then he was moody, right? So we've also had like people just not come to work anymore, not show up. So dumbass me, I'm like, oh, I need to be responsible and I should, you know, take up the slack and I should just keep working, even though this freaking job is so toxic to me. Like, do you see my face? Do you see? I have cystic acne. Cystic acne. They have cysts in it. Cysts. They don't just heal. You have to actually extract it. Okay, so it has to fester and get worse, which is really painful, and then you have to pop it out, and if you don't get the whole thing out, it just grows back again, okay? Cystic acne. Not only that, but my psoriasis is back. I had jock itch and athlete's feet. It cannot cure it. You have to wear these freaking polyester pants of like the worst grade ever. Your skin does not breathe. It's freaking polyester. It's a hydrocarbon processing byproduct. Okay, your skin cannot breathe. I have gone through. This is just a sampling of the medications I have gone through since August. Okay. This is just some of them, and you can actually see these are emptied. These are emptied, and then I have gone through 2 cans of Tinactin. The first Tinactin can I went through in less than a week. Okay, and I had to get tea tree oil. Tea tree oil. It stinks. It smells weird. Right? It ruins your hair. Okay, like, they're supposed to have safety regulations from OSHA. It doesn't exactly pan out that way. When you first start there, they're like, oh, yeah, it's great. We're so great. It's a great company. And then it doesn't happen. I feel like this is a thing a lot, big time in America. So, as I was saying, my last day, the person who was like my actual favorite person there, whom I assumed I had a rapport with, whom I liked, and I thought we got along really good. I thought we worked really well. He and one of the other bosses, like the top boss, they kept doing this thing, and a lot of times it seemed to me to be affectionate, or it was like, do you know what bus nuts is? It's like when they say negative things to you, but actually like, they're joshing you, and it's like a joke kind of a thing. But then you would go back and forth between like the pleasant tone and then the not pleasant tone, so I wasn't sure, you know, what the heck was up. And if it's a freaking team and I'm doing things, plus I'm doing other people's things because they're not there because they're watching YouTube or they're goofing off, smoking, and any number of other things you're not supposed to be doing, and I go to do it, then I'm going to do it, especially since I'm supposed to be doing it. And then he's yelling at me, no, I don't want you to do that, I don't want you to work with the customers. I shine when I'm with the customers, okay? I shine when I am with the customers. I am really good with people, okay? I'm really good with people. But for some reason, auto people just, I don't know, they're like split personalities or moody, really freaking moody. Okay, people make these sexist comments about women with PMS and menstruating and ovulating and all that stuff. But men have this moodiness thing with this testosterone, like highs and lows. I just cannot, anytime, okay? It is like a biological fact with many men that it's like this out of control thing sometimes. This almost reminds me of like roid rage, only I think that's actually a myth. Actually, I think some men just have like these ups and downs of hormones, and they just don't know, they haven't thought themselves through. Just sit down, take the time, and think about who you are, what you represent, that kind of thing. Meanwhile, they're talking about how they're violent people and they want to fight in MMAs and all these violent mixed martial art, blah, blah, blah. And then they're like the mentor and the leader. And then an old lady comes in and they're like, oh, hey, ma'am, blah, blah, blah. You're a violent person. I can't tell. Like, who are you? Right? So the thing that really just ruined it for me, because that day, like I said, it was really cold. I was dreading it. I thought it was going to be a terrible day. But then the morning happened, and it was actually a really good morning. I was very happy. I was in a good mood. But the head boss screwed something up. Somehow I got blamed for it. And then next thing you know, I was blamed for anything, okay, that I didn't even know about. I didn't even know, because I'm actually, like, doing work. I'm actually doing things, and no one is communicating anything to me. But that morning, totally fine. I turned the heaters on. I wasn't freezing. I was afraid of getting sick again. I have asthma. This job is just so not a healthy thing to do. I've actually hurt my wrist. I've seen people get incredibly injured. So after I take my lunch, because the one boss, the guy who was my favorite, he apparently was doing really well in sales, because apparently doing well in sales, and I think he was looking for a promotion or something, that sort of takes precedent about, you know, actually being a leader, leadership, helping people, training people, whatever, being consistent. After, to my face, we've had these conversations, and oh, I'm going to help you, I'm going to do whatever, blah, 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 right? Well, definitely, we'll take care of it. Except never actually do. It's just words. It's just words. So I go with my lunch, everything's fine, everything's good, and then after my lunch, there's like nothing to do. So they're all in the office, but if I go in the office and I do nothing with them for too long, then they'd be like, oh, well, you have to do, and it could be something I've already done, or there's nothing to do. So they're like, well, go fight the curb, which means like go stand outside with a sign and like wave at cars. So I just go and do that. And then after a while, because it actually started to get warmer, I went in and I wanted to use the restroom, and I accidentally, like, the light wasn't really on, I couldn't tell, and I accidentally sort of, like, opened the door, but nothing happened. It's not like anything, it hasn't ever happened before with somebody walking in on me or someone else, because I've seen it many times in different locations. Like, it's an error, it happens, okay? And not only that, but I had also that day told this particular management person that I had gotten a second job, and it was finalizing, and it was very high pay, and that I needed to change my availability hours and for not the weekends and so on, because it's much higher pay, etc. That specifically, after I had communicated that to him and he tried to help me or whatever, he became completely different, like completely different. Okay, he was happy mood guy, and then after that it just went down, 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 and then like deep down. So I'm supposed to be done at about 3:30. But after like 1 something, also, he couldn't make up his mind whether he was on lunch, not on lunch. I don't know. Same thing with like all the managers. I can't tell when they're on lunch or not. They just go and hang out on their car, go smoking, whatever. I don't know if they're on the clock, because nobody communicates it to me that much anymore. So he starts walking around and stomping around, and he's really loud. And a lot of times, they don't raise their voice. At the other location that I was at, people told me that I didn't speak up enough, that I wasn't loud enough. Okay, so there's certain calls you're supposed to call out when you're doing, because you're working on machinery, like automobile machinery, and you need to communicate with your team. Okay, a lot of times people just realize what you're doing. They can see what you're doing and tell what you're doing, right? Especially if you're working like in a rhythm, like you know things. There was a few people that I could just get into this rhythm with, and it was just automatic. Okay, and not just done their end, on mine as well. Okay, I'm a by-the-book person by default. I prefer that, unless people are corrupting me and they keep pushing me to like slack a bit. Then after a while, I will start slacking because everyone else does, and I never slack to the point where everyone else does. I just don't feel right about it. especially if it's a safety issue or a moral issue or a company issue, a legal issue, whatever, okay? So the guy keeps stomping around and he's really loud. He's like, bitch, fucking bitch, goddamn bitch, motherfucker, motherfucking bitch, fucking bitch, bitch, like this, okay? And he's stomping around. Now, I can't hear him when he's on the other side of the car, or he's doing, especially if there's vacuum or whatever, because he's like, oh, no. What? I don't understand you. So I'm like this, what? What? Meanwhile, I'm also still infected in my lungs. I also got yelled at for going into work sick the one time. Like, I actually showed up, but they'll come in with injuries and shit, okay? Right? So I'm thinking it's this chick, this lady that was there. I'm like, what is his beef with this lady? But he brings her out a few times. He's really jovial with her, more than normal. So I'm completely confused, right? So then he brings her back into the lounge, and he comes back out again, and he's fuming, and he's stomping. And he has these big freaking loud boots when he stomps, like, right? And he's throwing shit, and he's like, bitch, motherfucking bitch, goddamn bitch, fucking bitch. Right? So I'm thinking, like, what is his beef with this chick? Right? Like, what did she do? She came to me and asked me if I wanted her to put the window up so that I could wash it. At first I thought she meant the windshield, which didn't make sense. And then I realized she meant the passenger window. Nothing wrong with that. I don't even call that anal. That's just a customer that wanted, what they paid for. Like, that's completely normal, right? So I'm like, no, it's okay. I got it. I can handle it. So I put the window up because that's what she wants. She's the customer. Like, that's what you do. That's not being a bitch. There's nothing wrong with that. I was really nice. I was really pleasant with her and everyone else. And then he takes her back into the lounge. So I do that. And then as I go to the next car, because they want me to hustle and go faster, but yet they also want me to do a perfect job, so slow down and do a better job. Like, what do you want? So I bend down. It takes like split seconds to do that, to bend down. I put my hand on the valve, on the cap valve on the tire, and I was going to do it when he rings this doorbell thing, which you can like not really hear at all. And by the way, the phone is not even in the office. It's somewhere else, out in the garage, which not even everyone can even hear. So he rings the doorbell, and I'm like, what the hell? So I get up, I let go of the cap, I put the hose back, and as I'm doing it, he's already done a second time, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, right? And I'm like, God, would you just freaking calm down? It takes whole seconds to get there. Whole seconds. It might even take a full second to get to the door, which is right behind me because I'm right by the window and you can see me. I go there, and he's all, like, jovial. He's all happy, and he's all chit-chatting with her, and I'm like, I don't get it. I don't get it, right? I'm like, so is he cool with this chick, right? So I grab the sticker, I put it in the car. The woman wants to talk. She's actually really pleasant. He's really pleasant, and I'm like, this just doesn't make sense to me. Like, he is, like, different persons, okay? And I'm like, what is this? And like, the freaking customer's there, you don't talk about customers like that, right? Also, the things he was saying and things he was doing is just so freaking sexist. And I'm standing there at the door because I have to walk the person through the door to their car, open the door, which I usually leave open, help them into the car, and close the door, and then say goodbye and invite them back. And that's part of the job, right? And if the customer wants to talk, you're supposed to, like, make small talk. It's part of the mandated protocol type things you're supposed to do. So I go there, I'm waiting, because if you wait there too long, they get mad at you, and I'm like, do you want me to go in? Do you want me to go out? And I'm looking at him like, dude, do you want me to leave, or do you want me to stay here, because I'm going to walk her out? And then he goes, oh, well, Candace has the door, and she, whatever. So she's still talking. She wants to talk to me. She's happy because I'm a girl that works here, and that's great. So he's just so jovial, like, just, I'm like, does he know her? This is just, I'm like, I don't get it. I don't get it, right? So I walk her out. She still wants to chit-chat with me on the way out, so I chit-chat with her. I take her to the door. I'm like, I have to go back to work, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh, what about this? What about that? I'm like, it's totally fine. If you want to bring the car back, we can blah, blah, blah. So I'm about to go to the other car, and the car that was just there that I just parked there, which they told me to get out of, and I just did the tire, they're telling me that like the oil got all over the place, or actually they spilled a ton of things that day. I cleaned it up. Nobody told me to. I asked, should I get a spill kit? No. Whatever. So now I'm blamed for this oil thing. I don't know anything about hybrids. I've never been taught anything about hybrids. I know nothing about hybrids. I didn't even know it was a hybrid. I just know that it was a really quiet car. Okay? Also, it doesn't have keys. You can't turn it off. So when you push the button, it's sort of a guess if it works or not, if the light on the button works or not. And that's apparently happened before. Okay? So if the top boss is there, he's doing the stuff in the engine. And they tell me to hurry up and go do a tire, and then as I go to do the tire, he's like, ding dong, get this customer, like, help her out, right, like, to leave, right? I don't see how that's my fault, especially since, like, 4 or 5 times they didn't even want to finish doing the whole inspection of the blinkers or whatever, especially the head boss, so I don't see how that's my fault. And then if I protest or if I say anything, they're like, just do the next thing, just go do this, just don't want me to do anything. Right, fine. So I come out and I go to start doing the tires, and he's like, watch your back. And I'm thinking like he means like, oh, because I have the hose, and he's like gonna bump into me or something, or that there's a customer. I'm thinking like, because that's what he'll usually say. But the way he said it was like, watch your back, like I'm gonna fuck you up or something, right? So I go to do that tire. I'm on the other tire. I'm about to go to the next one. And there was another car I needed to get out or whatever, and another car that needed to come in. They wanted me to drive it in. So fine, I put everything down. So I go to get that next car. I think we help that next car out. We go to bring the next car in. And also the whole time, because I was going to ask him, you know, what is your beef with that chick? Right? Well, what did she do? Like, she seemed fine, you were fine. But when he came out, because I thought when he was in there, he was fine, that maybe I'm, you know, imagining this or something, right? But when I go out there and I'm in the middle of doing that, he's obviously in a bad mood, and obviously, like, don't fucking talk to me, anybody. And I'm like, what the fuck, right? And he's still doing this bitch, motherfucking bitch, goddamn bitch, fucking bitch stuff, okay? And stomping around and throwing things. He's throwing a rag, he's throwing a freaking, like, oil thing, and then he's like, can you put this away? And I'm like, whatever. And I'm like, fine, right? He yells at me for the oil thing, which wasn't even my fault. I have no memory of it, because when I'm trying to do one thing or 3 things and you want me to suddenly stop and do other things, I don't remember, because I'm human. I'm like a person. I'm like a human being kind of a thing, okay? And he's still doing all this sexist shit, so I'm starting to realize, like, no, he's not beefing with that chick. It's freaking me. He's got some beef with me. Right, because of the other boss, and it just keeps looking like I'm the one doing it, when you don't even take into account the other boss's negligence, okay, his lack of leadership, his just nonchalantness, and whatever. So, like, if you're in charge, how do you not know that? Like, how is it my fault that you didn't know what you were doing, that you didn't check to do what you were doing when you're supposed to be responsible, and you're paid to be responsible, and you're supposed to know all these things, and then you get oil on you, but you blame me? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me, okay? And I wasn't being a bitch. The other guy was. The angry guy was. Not only that, but angry guy was, like, my favorite person there. And I was just completely, like, caught off guard. Like, what the heck? I'm still, like, stupefied. Like, what the hell is going on here? All I know is he's being incredibly sexist. He's saying all this incredibly sexist shit. And bitch, fucking bitch, all this stuff, and he's saying, like, I mean, it's not like mumbling, it's not under his breath, it's loud, and I can hear that, but I can't hear him across the other thing. Oh, start it up. Like, I can't hear that, but I can hear bitch, fucking bitch, motherfucking bitch, and all the other sexist shit that he's saying, and I mean saying, not just saying, but, like, shouting, and breathing really freaking loud. I can hear that. I can hear that. Right? And I'm thinking, oh my god, I want to freaking quit, like, now, because this is my limit. right here, because now I'm being blamed for shit, and I can get hurt here, and they wanted me to rush stuff, the things that I know I'm not supposed to rush, and just ignore safety things, ignore policy, all these things, and I'm just fed up, right? So they tell me to do the next car, and the whole day, many fog lights haven't worked right. Many of the lights in many of the cars haven't worked right. And all cars are completely different. They're not the same, right? And I'm also trying to do what they're telling me I not do, because I was never instructed to do a certain way of things. It was just figure it out. Okay, so I was trying to keep in mind, okay, well, when I get in, I'll pop the hood, because usually they say pop the hood after you do, like, after you've driven it in and you check the lights, but apparently that's not fast enough. The only way I can reach, a lot of times the latch for the hood, it's somewhere different in every car, and almost always you have to bend down to reach it, and you have to see. So there's no light down there. I have to open the door just so that I can fit down there and find it and then pull it, and that can take like a whole second sometimes. A whole freaking second, right? Maybe two. Oh my God, right? It can even take, I don't know, 10 seconds, 15 whole seconds. Oh my God, heaven forfend. So as I'm doing this, and I go to turn the lights on, and I'm like, they're on. And this is not the first time it's happened that they had to check, okay? And before that, he asked me when I was done. It was like around 2, and I said 3:30, right? And then he shut up after that, right? But when I went to do this light test, this light inspection, which they didn't even do the back, and they skipped the back on a lot of things. There was times where I told them that license plate lights were out and they needed to be replaced. Didn't do anything about it. He comes over, doesn't even check, right? And he's like, you know what? Just clock out and go home, right? I'm like completely stupefied, completely like gobsmacked. I'm like, what the fuck? And obviously, he is like not happy with me. And the head manager is right freaking there. And he's just like, whatever. Like so nonchalant, like, I don't care. Whatever, like, I don't care. So I'm like, what the fuck? Also, right before that, I'm thinking, if he cops an attitude with me, because I wasn't expecting him to be like this, and when I realized, like, his sexist attitude is pointed at me, I feel like the whole thing was just set up, honestly. When I realized that, I'm thinking, okay, well, if he's going to start shit, if he's going to cop an attitude with me again, if he's going to do anything, I was like, I'm going to get defensive, and then I might get offensive, and I'm going to argue with him. So, as they were catching me off guard before, because he was somebody I actually liked, okay, that I assumed we had a rapport, because it always seemed that way, but now I'm seeing that he's two different persons, and he is really good at faking things, and he has some issue with me, that he's actually inside really sexist, and he's done and said things before that were incredibly sexist that I assumed was just joking, that was just in jest or something. I was like, I'm gonna fight. But when he told me to leave, I already wanted to leave, and I was like, what the hell? And it just suddenly happened. So I just got up, got out of the car. I don't even think I closed the door. I just went out, grabbed my stuff, and just clocked out, and I just walked home. I was supposed to be driven home that day because I didn't take my bike. I usually ride my bike there. And that day, because it was so cold, my husband happened to be home, and he just drove me down the street, and he's like, I'll just pick you up. And he already had other stuff to do, and that's a whole other chaotic thing. There was some stuff with my daughter that was happening at school. It was a whole other chaotic thing. Plus, I had a new job that I was starting, and I had to finalize all this paperwork, and that was another pain in the ass. There was like tons of things all happening at once. But anyway, I started walking, and I just felt, at first I felt like numb, like, but at the same time I felt like relieved. But then in my backpack, I had the phone number for the head guy of the whole area, who was above the regional guy. So I called him, I left a message, and I don't know what happened, but I just started like bawling. I wasn't even upset the whole day until I had to call that guy, and then next thing I know, it was like all these emotions started coming out of me like a freaking Niagara. I couldn't even like breathe right. So then I tried to call the head regional guy, and I didn't really know exactly what his number was. So by the time I got home, also my daughter was supposed to be home and supposed to let me in, and she wasn't, she disappeared. She just up and disappeared. I didn't have my keys, so I couldn't get in, and then I had to wait for my husband to get home to unlock the door. So finally I called like the old place that I worked at, just so that I could confirm to make sure what the number was. Just could call the head regional guy. I called that head regional guy. I left a message. I also thanked my old boss, and my old boss was like really concerned. And then later on, the regional guy calls me back, and he's like, "What's going on?" At first, he acts like he doesn't know, right? But apparently, because I already talked to my old boss, my really old boss, my old boss must have already said something, and he was like, "Oh my God, something's, I don't know, Candace was upset or whatever, and she wanted to talk to you," right? So I don't know if he was there. But apparently he also talked with those two managers at the place I was at, and they made up like all these things about me. I have no idea what they're talking about. Like I just put oil on people and shit, right? And like I'm a bitch. Really? 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 Well, I told him no, that's not happened, and then they were like, well, why didn't you go to the head manager guy? Like, he was right there. Like, well, why didn't you go to him? Like, he was right there. He was in the room. He was like right in front of me. He saw the whole thing. Right. And they're like, well, why didn't he do it? I mean, he doesn't do anything. He's not a leader kind of person. Okay? And I was upset, and I was just, after leaving a message with Bill, I started to realize that I didn't even want to go back. I was not going back. And I left a message with Bill. So then when Chris called me, I was like, I don't even want to go back. Right? And he was like, fine, well, what do you want to do? I was like, I already have another job lined up. And after I told that manager that I had that was when his mood seemed to just shift. It went like on a decline slowly, and then suddenly like dropped and then dropped and like just sharp drops. So that is why I no longer work there. That is why I'm not going back to them. And the weird thing is, like, my actual Halloween request off thing was approved. I'm not coming into work. I'm never working blue collar ever again. I have no beef with people that are blue collar in general. Just not going to work that ever again. This is like a thing, especially in Massachusetts, but I feel like this country has just crumbled. It is just, I just don't understand. Like, I have stacks of paperwork, of rules, policies, regulations from a number of companies that I have already worked for that they give you when you first start, and when you actually go on the job, it's nothing like that. That's how it is in America right now. Okay? I'm not making this up. I mean, I had the stacks. These are the stacks. This is just a fraction. Okay? I actually read them. Okay? So, that's that.